Guys, how's it going? Welcome back. So we went to Dollarama yesterday when we were in North Bay. Yes, I went to Longham McQuaid too, but I didn't buy nothing. Anyways, April 1st is coming. Gibson month. Yeah! New toy. Anyways, Monster HDMI 4-foot super speed 22.5 gigabit per second 4K HDR, okay, with locking connectors. Now I'm going to tell you right now, that's a lie. Anyway, we'll get to that. Black Platinum Ultra HD 4K HDMI cable, Ultra Mesh braided cable. Gold plated connectors though, so nothing wrong with that. There's our backdoor specs, compatible with OLED, QLED TVs, HDR dynamic range, which I have in both my computers. 4K, supports the 4K resolution, 60 Hz though. For faster 4K video, 16-bit color capability. For lifelike color transitions, super speed, which we've already talked about the speed, locking connectors, superior cable connections and reliability. They are stiff connectors, I will give them that. They go in really snug, but they do not lock. Okay? Anyways, they go, of course, about the bandwidth of different cables. Their cable is 22.5 gigabit per second. Advanced cables are 21, high speed are 18, and standard cables suck at a whole 10.2. Which, whatever, okay? I mean, doesn't matter to me. Limited live forever warranty, whatever the heck that's supposed to mean, but it did come from Dollarama for a whole $5 Canadian, okay? Now, I don't know if you guys that are in the States have a Dollarama, but we certainly do here in Canada, so if you are Canadian, go to Dollarama, and I would recommend buying this cable. I do give it a 4.5 out of 5. For two reasons. One, nothing's perfect, no 5-star rating. Two, the locking connectors are total BS. But here's what the cable looks like in real life. And we're going to hook it up for you guys into my Asus TUF 17 laptop. Now I do have an NVIDIA card in this, but it automatically activates when and if it needs to. So we do have that part about it. And it's only going to activate itself when a program needs it, like a video game, for example, that has some pretty raunchy graphics going on. It's going to need that NVIDIA. Otherwise, you have the Ultra HD as well, because it's a dual source. We do have a Thunderbolt port, which is definitely capable of Thunderbolt devices. As well as DisplayPort, that sort of thing. Now I'm going through, of course, the HDMI port on this thing, and even though it's a newer version port than what the Mac has, they both will do 4K, absolutely no hassle, at 60 Hz. Okay? But there is a way to get around to doing that, to get your 4K resolution up on this thing, because being it's a laptop and it's got its own built-in 144 Hz, 1080p, if you want to access higher than 2K on the outside, you do have to switch over to show only monitor 2, okay, which this is monitor number 2, okay. So everything else down here is ghosted. So to get around that part, to get to everything, we go to advance and we say we want the Ultra gear. Now we are currently at 2K resolution. At 120 Hz, because that's all we're going to get, or we can go to 60 Hz, we can drop it down at 2K. Not a big deal, okay? Now, if we go into display properties here for number 2, this is where we can go list all modes, and we should get our 4K showing up here, right about here at 60 Hz, because that's the refresh we want. We can drop it down to like 23 Hz or 29 Hz, and it's going to be all 32-bit. They claim the cable is 16-bit, but it does 32-bit. So, anyways, we'll say OK and apply. And yes, we want to keep our changes, so that's fine there. And we are at a whole 60 Hz, and that's what we're going to get. Okay? So that's perfectly fine. Now, of course, I selected the lower hertz, so I want to go back, revert. So 60 hertz, 4K, no big deal. So then we can go in and we'll just leave this over here in the background opened up. So if we go into a video game, we can definitely play in 4K. I like Far Cry. It's actually still my favorite game of all time. For Far Cry #1. I keep playing this thing because it has AI in it, and every time you've beaten the game and you go and play it again, everything changes, like character positions and stuff, because you're playing against the computer here, right? But even when creatures come out and stuff, I mean, they're never in the same place twice. Even when you die in the game and you respawn, right? You're back at wherever you had gotten left off in your last save. Things are not the same. So I kind of really like the game. I mean, this is a 20-year-old game now, pretty much, and it's like, this is so wicked. And I've only played easy and medium. I've not done challenging, veteran, or realistic yet. Like, I tried realistic once, and I'm like, this is way too hard for me right now. I need to master this game completely. Then I'll go to challenging mode, get that figured out, and so on, because everything hits the fan. Okay? So anyways, let's go into training mode here. And now, before we go and we do too much here, let's actually go back to the main menu. Options, video. Now, we're at 4K at 32-bit. So we're already at that resolution. We can change the resolution right as low as 720 if we wanted to. It doesn't matter, okay? And we can go into 2K mode if we want to as well. But we're at 3440 by 2160, 32-bit. Okay? Return to game. I am like so going to die here, but it's okay. Okay, so that's fine. Game works just fantastic. So, no big deal there. I just want to zoom back in a little bit here. List all modes. Gets really tiny to try and read this stuff. So we can actually go to 1080p if we wanted to as well. Boof. Okay, now that's actually not where it's supposed to be hitting for that, but revert. And so we're going to go in here, display settings, advanced, number 2, properties, list all modes. And apply. Now, when you are using just the single display, okay, so you've said, I just want display number 2, you're not going to get past 120 hertz. But you do get a choice between 120 and 59.95. Okay, that's not a big deal, alright? I mean, it really honestly isn't. If you want to duplicate displays, of course, this is where things have to share and be nice to each other, kind of thing. Then what happens is now we get back our display resolution, we get orientation back, we get the scaling that we can do here, no big deal. Now the recommended is 1920 by 1080. Now the screen in the laptop is 1920 by 1080, but it will actually show itself as 2K on the internal screen when you're at 2K here, which is kind of really cool because it kind of forces your internal. Works just fine, no big deal. So we're at the 21. Now if we go back into advanced, we still only have our 120 hertz here, okay? And we're on duplicate. Now I did find a way earlier to go to 144. I just got to remember how I actually did that. It wasn't on extend. Bum, 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 bum. 100% scaling. Advanced. Display 2. Install modes. Yeah, 144. Okay. Well, it says 144 there. So let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. Let's go back. We may have to restart the computer for this. I don't know. Resolution scaling 100%. Yeah, we just had to close everything out. So we're at 144 Hertz 2K on the internal, but our external is at 120. So yeah, we can only do the 120 on the external, which is not a big deal. Okay, makes no difference. But when I'm running this computer, because I'm not using my internal display, because as soon as I lift up my lid, it's like I block part of my screen, right? Because of the setup I have going on. I'm not trying to split screens or anything else. I just leave the lid down, so I don't go for duplicate. I just go show only on number 2. I leave it there. Yes, I want to keep. But because I'm on show only number 2 only, if I want to change resolutions higher than the 2K or lower, etc., then I actually have to go into advanced display, and I got to make sure LG is selected. I have these 2 options. I go here, and then I go list all modes, and I'm like, okay, so what are all my modes here? I should have 4K, which I do at 60 Hertz. I click on that, I say apply, and my screen is in 4K, which I prefer playing 4K anyways for games, right? But I can, and 2K is just fine too. And 60 Hertz is where you're stuck at, okay? So it's going to be 60 Hertz or lower, okay? Now 60 Hertz, I have no issues playing games. I even tried this cable on my actual 4K 60 Hertz panel, which is one I got from my Mac now. And yeah, I'm definitely, that 60 Hertz, no matter what I do, even at 2K on the Mac, I'm at 60 Hertz because my panel is limited to 60 Hertz. Okay, so whatever you buy your screen at, you do have, yes, an upper type of thing for your refresh rate. Like this is a 165 Hertz display, but it can't do 165 Hertz off of this computer because the HDMI bus is only going to put out up to that 120 Hertz on 2K, but it's only going to be able to do 60 Hertz 4K. So, and you know, as far as between the 2 screens go, other than maybe a couple little settings I would have to tweak on this big boy, they would be, if I set the settings the same for like brightness and all that jazz, I probably wouldn't be able to tell them apart realistically. Okay, but you never know, right? They are different displays either way, but I don't think we'd really see all that much difference. But I have had this thing hooked into the 4K authentic 4K display, and gameplay is just gameplay. It's 60 Hertz, 144 Hertz. I'm not really seeing a difference that's substantially gainable. You know what I mean? Like I can't really see the difference in refresh rate that way. So maybe if it was much higher, then yeah, I probably would see a difference that way. So but just you have to know what your computer is capable of doing before you go and buy a high performance display as far as the Hertz refresh rate goes. But definitely playing games at 2K, you're going to get 120 Hertz, which is more than enough for gaming anyways. Okay, like that's my opinion, all right? And we all have our opinions, and that's fine. You know, a lot of people believe in you only need 8 gigs of RAM and a 256 gig SSD, and yeah, that's fantastic and perfect in a perfect world, but unfortunately that's not reality. 8 gigs of RAM is completely useless and pointless, and yeah, so is a 256 SSD. we need a lot more than that. Even Windows wants like just shy of 8 gigs to itself, so yeah, we definitely need more than 8 gigs of RAM. Okay, Mac OS chews like almost half of that. But anyway, so the cable works fine. No issues with the cable other than the fact that they lie. It is definitely not locking connectors. That's the only thing about the cable that I can find that's false about it. They are not locking connectors. There is no push release buttons, which would have to be there for a locking cable. So therefore they're just stiff connections, and that's fine and dandy, because we do want a nice firm connection. That is one of the reasons why I bought this cable, because my current cable on my Mac, sometimes it can jiggle just enough that it throws my picture off, because the cable is not exactly super tight fitting, right? Where this cable would be, but unfortunately where I've chosen to put my Mac Mini and my other stuff attached to it, I am like 1 foot shy of using this cable, and I'm like, oh, come on! And I really can't, you know, put my Mac anywhere else that's suitable for me without rearranging everything. And I honestly don't really want to do that just to use a 4-foot cable. But I might be convinced. We'll have to see. But right now everything's working fine, so why mess with something that's working fine for my setup? Because I don't like a cluttered table. That's the thing. I'd have to put my Mac Mini underneath my screen. I'd have to move my hubs across, and it's like, no! I shouldn't have to do that. So anyway, I'm going to leave this cable though on this computer. I think it's just great, and it kind of gives it a little bit more nicer look than what I currently had on it, which was a really long cable, mind you. In fact, this is the head pieces from the other cable, and it's quite the long cable. But I thought, well, why not? You know, you got to try these things, different tech that Dollarama comes up with. And I would recommend it. So if you're looking for an inexpensive HDMI cable that works, at least as far as we know, 100% as advertised, I'm going to have to see if there's a program for testing HDMI cables for speed. And then I can actually verify at that point, is it actually doing what it says it does? Is it quicker than what it says? Is it slower? You know what I mean? So I'll have to find some way to test the cable in that sense. So we're still on the hanger a little bit about, is this actually the speed that it says it is? We can't verify that at this time. But we do know we have gold-plated connectors, or at least they look like they're gold-plated. It's braided mesh, like they say. The connectors are stiff, but they are not locking connectors. That's for darn sure. And it has no problem doing 2K, 4K resolutions or any other resolution. In fact, it actually does better. They say 16-bit color. Now that may be something where it's relegated by your device, but at least its minimum capability, I guess, would be 16-bit. But we've got a game running 32-bit graphics, and it handles it just fine, so no complaints there. So it actually does go a little bit above and beyond what the box says. But for $5, I thought it's a gamble, it's worth it, and it gives you guys some more tech to check out. Not everything at Dollarama is garbage. Not everything at Dollar Tree is garbage. But I love Dollarama for a lot of their tech stuff, and they're also the only one in town I can find that sells canned air too. So if you need canned air for cleaning keyboards and stuff, they sell that stuff at the Dollarama. So it's a lot cheaper than going to any other store, which is going to charge you like probably 3 or 4 times the price. But yeah, definitely check it out for yourselves. I like it, I recommend it, and I think we're done here. So thank you so much for watching and sticking around, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye!